Oh my gosh, dolls, you will not believe what happened to me today. I walked into my own reflection and barely recognized myself. 1 minute I thought I was still, in control, alpha vibes and all that. The next. Honey, I was dripping in silk, makeup perfectly blended, nails sparkling, and suddenly, I was gone. Alpha gone. Sissy in full bloom. Nail polish, and let me tell you, it all happened in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I promise, this isn't one of those slow little transformations where you sneak into a skirt and hope nobody notices. No, this was me, catapulted straight from boardroom boss energy to delicate, flirty, utterly broken in love with myself sissy mode. So, picture this, I was standing there, tie loosened, watching my reflection like, wait, is that Emmy? My jaw literally dropped. The silk blouse I'd been joking about wearing for a fun little experiment. Yeah, now it felt like armor, like it belonged to me. My hips swayed in ways I didn't even know they could. Every little curve pronounced, every movement delicate yet commanding attention. And babes, the thing is, I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel wrong. I felt like this was exactly who I was supposed to be, hiding under that stiff alpha facade all these years. I mean, let's be honest, the first time you see your sissy reflection fully realized, it's like magic, like someone handed you a secret you weren't allowed to have, until now. I felt so exposed, but in the best, most intoxicating way. There's something insanely thrilling about watching yourself switch from power suit, tie, and scowl to pastel nails, fluttering lashes, and soft, playful lips that are just begging to smile. And dolls, let me tell you, my smile? Cheekbones for days, eyes sparkling, entire aura whispering I am sissy and I know it. And you know what's hilarious? 10 minutes in, I caught myself adjusting my skirt, flicking my hair over one shoulder, checking my makeup, and giggling like a total brat. Totally mesmerized. Alpha me. Dead. Gone. Replaced by someone who wants to twirl in the mirror, show off every curve, and maybe tease a little. Because, honey, if you're not teasing, what's the point? I was broken, shattered even, but in the most exquisite, glitter-filled way. Here's the thing I realized in that first few moments. Surrender isn't weakness. It's power. The power to fully embrace the version of yourself you've been dreaming about. It's bold, it's naughty, it's absolutely liberating. I'd always thought alpha meant control, dominance, rules. And dolls, maybe in some places it does. But in that mirror, with silk brushing my skin, heels clicking softly on the floor, I realized something completely different. Power is knowing who you are and flaunting it, unapologetically. And yes, sissy power is everything. By the time I had finished adjusting my lashes, practicing my cutest little tilt of the head, and curling my fingers just so, I knew there was no turning back. The old me, the alpha me, she would have panicked, frozen, tried to rip off the skirt and hide. But the new me, she grinned, sashayed, and whispered to the reflection, "Goodbye alpha, hello sissy." And dolls, let me tell you, that whisper. It sounded like a love note. To myself. To every little sissy hiding inside. And just between us, I think that's what broke me. Not the skirt, not the nails, not even the heels. It was the realization that this version of me was perfect. Flawless. Irresistible. And finally, free. My mind raced, my heart pounded, every nerve buzzing with the deliciousness of surrender. 10 minutes, babes. 10 minutes was all it took. And now, I'm living in that moment, twirling in silk, whispering little flirty secrets to my reflection, and knowing that nothing will ever be the same. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until I exhaled and laughed. This soft, airy little giggle that felt so unlike the old me. My shoulders dropped. My posture shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't standing like I needed to defend myself from the world anymore. I was posing. Chin up, hips relaxed, hands loose and expressive, like my body finally understood its own language. And oh my goodness, dolls, once your body starts speaking sissy, it never shuts up. I remember walking a few steps, just testing it. Click, click, click. The sound of my heels echoed like applause. Every step felt intentional, graceful, almost ceremonial. It was like I was walking out of one life and into another, one sway at a time. Alpha me used to stomp. This version. She glides. She floats. She knows she's being watched even when she's alone. Then came the thoughts. You know the ones. That little voice that used to say, "This is too much. This is silly. This isn't you." But dolls, that voice was weaker now, drowned out by something warmer, sweeter. A new voice whispered back, "This is exactly you. You just finally stopped pretending." And honestly, that whisper felt more honest than anything I'd told myself before. I caught my reflection again, this time closer. Fingers brushing my collarbone, nails catching the light. I leaned in, studying my lips, the softness in my eyes. There was vulnerability there, yes, but also confidence. The kind that doesn't need to shout. The kind that flirts by existing. And I swear, in that moment, I fell in love with her. With me. It's funny how alpha energy always taught me to conquer, to win, to dominate. But Sissy energy. She invites. She entices. She seduces without force. She doesn't take space, she fills it with charm. And once I felt that shift, once I understood that I didn't have to be loud or hard to be powerful, something inside me melted completely. Like ice finally turning to water. I sat down, crossed my legs slowly, deliberately. The way I'd seen women do it 1,000 times without ever really understanding why it looked so right. And now I knew. It's intention. Dolls. It's awareness. It's knowing your body is art and treating it like it deserves to be admired. I adjusted my skirt, smoothed the fabric, and caught myself smiling again. That smile wasn't nervous anymore. It was proud. And here's a little secret. Just between us sissies. The moment you stop trying to act feminine and start letting yourself feel feminine, everything changes. Your movements soften. Your thoughts slow down. You become deliciously present. I wasn't rushing anymore. I wasn't planning my next move like a chess game. I was just being. And being felt so good it was almost dangerous. I remember thinking, so this is what they mean when they say surrender. Not giving up. Giving in. Giving yourself permission to enjoy, to sparkle, to be a little extra. To be fragile and fierce at the same time. Alpha me thought softness was a flaw. Sissy me knows it's a weapon wrapped in glitter. By now, the transformation wasn't just on the outside. It had crawled into my voice, my thoughts, my fantasies. I started talking to myself softly, encouragingly. You look gorgeous. You're doing so well. You deserve this. And dolls, if you've never spoken to yourself like that before, let me tell you, it breaks something open inside you. In the best way. 10 minutes in, and I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't experimenting. I was home. And once you feel that, truly feel it, there's no UN feeling it. The alpha armor cracks, slips off, and suddenly you realize how heavy it always was. How tired you were of carrying it. And how light you feel without it. I stood up again, slower this time, savoring the way my body responded. Every movement felt intentional, like my muscles had learned a new rhythm and didn't want to forget it. My hands naturally floated instead of clenched. My back arched just a little, not forced, just instinctive. And that's when it hit me, dolls. This wasn't something I was putting on. This was something I was allowing out. I walked back to the mirror, closer than before, almost nose to glass. I tilted my head, gave myself that look. You know the one. Soft eyes, lips parted just slightly, a hint of mischief playing right under the surface. I practiced a smile, then another, until I found the one that felt right. Not shy. Not arrogant. Confident in a quiet, irresistible way. And I whispered, barely audible, "You're beautiful." My own voice saying it made my knees weak. Alpha me would have laughed at that. Mocked it. Said affirmations were silly. But in that moment, it felt like truth finally being spoken out loud. Like my reflection had been waiting years to hear it. I traced my finger along the mirror, following the outline of my face, my neck, my shoulders. There was tenderness there. Care. Something alpha never taught me how to give myself. Then came the memories. Moments from the past that suddenly made sense. The times I'd lingered a little too long in the women's section. The way certain fabrics had always fascinated me. The secret thrill of imagining myself softer, prettier, desired in a different way. I used to push those thoughts down, label them distractions. Now, they lined up like puzzle pieces finally snapping into place. I realized something important right there. Dolls. This wasn't a fall from alpha. It was a return to authenticity. I hadn't lost anything. I'd gained freedom. Freedom to feel, to express, to play. Freedom to not be locked into a role that never quite fit. And once that realization settled in, it was like my heart unclenched for the first time. I caught myself swaying again, just slightly, to a rhythm only I could hear. My hips moved without permission from my brain. And instead of stopping myself, I leaned into it. I let myself enjoy the way my body moved, the way it felt to exist like this. Present. Aware. Soft but powerful. There was a moment of fear, I won't lie. A tiny flicker that asked, what if you can't go back? And dolls, the answer came instantly. I didn't want to. Going back suddenly felt like a punishment, not safety. Why would I trade silk for stiffness? Warmth for armor? This version of me felt alive. The old one felt like a performance. I sat down again, crossed my legs the other way this time, just to feel it. My hands rested on my thighs, nails bright against skin. I breathed in, slow and deep, and let the calm wash over me. The chaos, the constant need to prove myself, it all quieted. In its place was a gentle confidence, humming softly, telling me I was enough exactly like this. And that's when I knew, dolls. This wasn't just a look. This wasn't just a mood. This was an awakening. 10 minutes didn't just change my appearance. It rewired my sense of self. It showed me a version of power I'd never been allowed to want. And once seen, it couldn't be unseen. The room felt different now, like the air itself had softened. I noticed details I'd never paid attention to before. The way light caught on my nails. The gentle brush of fabric against my thighs when I moved. Even my breathing felt lighter, slower, more deliberate. It was as if my whole world had shifted into a more intimate setting, one where I was the main character and not just a role player. I took a few more steps, this time not testing, not questioning. Just moving. And every step said the same thing, I belong here. My reflection followed me from every angle, and instead of feeling watched, I felt admired. By myself. That alone was revolutionary. Alpha me always needed an audience, approval, validation. Sissy me. She glows even when no one is looking. I leaned against the wall, one knee bent, weight resting on one hip. Completely natural. Completely unforced. I laughed softly at myself, not out of nerves, but delight. Like, wow, so this is me. And dolls, there's something delicious about realizing you don't need to apologize for your femininity. You don't need permission. You don't need a reason. You just are. My thoughts started to shift too. They weren't about what I should do next or how I should act. They were about how I felt. How good it felt to be gentle with myself. How exciting it was to imagine being seen like this. Not as a joke. Not as a secret. But as a confident, playful, feminine presence. I caught myself playing with my hair, twirling a strand around my finger. A tiny gesture, but it sent a spark through me. These little movements, dolls, they're not small. They're affirmations. Each one says, I accept this. I enjoy this. And the more I allowed them, the more natural they became. I thought about all the times I'd force myself to be harder, louder, tougher than I wanted to be. All the times softness had been treated like something to outgrow. Standing there in my heels, skirt hugging me just right, I realized softness is not immaturity. It's confidence that doesn't need armor. I walked back to the mirror one more time and placed my palm against it, like I was touching another person. In a way, I was. The version of me I'd been hiding from, denying, pushing away. And I smiled at her with genuine affection. I see you, I whispered. And I'm not letting you disappear again. There was pride in that moment. Quiet, steady pride. Not the chest-thumping alpha kind, but something deeper. something rooted. The kind of pride that says, I know who I am now. And dolls, once that settles in, it's intoxicating. You don't want to rush. You don't want to escape. You want to savor. I adjusted my posture again, shoulders relaxed, chin lifted. Not to dominate. To shine. And in that stance, I felt beautiful in a way I never had before. Not because I fit an ideal, but because I fit myself. That's when it truly clicked. This wasn't about becoming less. It was about becoming more. More expressive. More honest. More alive. Alpha didn't break me. Sissy did. And she did it with grace, glitter, and a smile that said, "You're safe now." Time started to feel strange after that, like it had slowed down just for me. I wasn't counting minutes anymore. I wasn't thinking about before or after. I was living inside the moment, wrapped in fabric and feeling, letting every sensation land fully. The faint weight of my earrings. The cool air brushing my skin. The gentle pressure of my heels grounding me. Each detail felt intimate, like a secret shared between me and myself. I caught myself doing something unexpected. I started talking. Out loud. Softly, sweetly, like I was comforting someone I loved. "You're okay," I murmured. "You're doing beautifully." And dolls, hearing those words come from my own mouth did something to me. Alpha me never spoke kindly to himself. He demanded. He criticized. He pushed. This version. She nurtured. She encouraged. She bloomed under her own affection. I moved toward the window, watching my reflection faintly overlap with the outside world. For a moment, I imagined being seen like this. Not hiding. Not rushing to change. Just existing. And instead of panic, I felt a flutter of excitement. The idea of being perceived as soft, feminine, and confident didn't scare me anymore. It thrilled me. There's a moment in every transformation where fantasy meets reality, where you realize this isn't just play. This is preference. This is truth. And dolls, I was standing right in it. I rolled my shoulders back, let my arms rest naturally at my sides, fingers relaxed. I looked like I belonged in my own body for the first time. I remembered how alpha energy always told me to take up space aggressively, to claim territory. But this was different. This was occupying space with elegance. With presence. With a quiet magnetism that didn't demand attention, but drew it in anyway. And I loved that kind of power. It felt sustainable. It felt me. I walked slowly across the room again, not to test, not to practice, but to enjoy. My hips moved without thought. My steps were smooth, almost hypnotic. I smiled to myself, feeling that delicious mix of confidence and vulnerability. That's the magic, dolls. When you let yourself be both. I paused, placed a hand over my heart, and took a deep breath. I could feel it beating, steady and strong. This wasn't weakness. This was alignment. My body, my mind, my desire, all finally agreeing. And that harmony. It's addictive. I whispered another truth into the quiet room. I don't need to prove anything anymore. And the relief that followed was overwhelming. No performance. No role. Just me, soft and certain. That's when I understood why this broke me. Not because it shattered me into pieces, but because it cracked me open. It let the light in. It let her out. And once she's out, dolls, she doesn't go back in the box. I felt bold enough then to really look at myself, not just glance, but study. I turned slowly, giving my reflection every angle, every curve, every line of softness I used to ignore or hide. And instead of picking myself apart, I admired. I appreciated. I celebrated. That alone felt rebellious. I lifted one shoulder, let the strap rest just right, and smiled at how natural it felt to adjust myself this way. Not rushed. Not ashamed. Just aware. Alpha me used to move like he was late for something. Sissy me. She arrives exactly when she means to. I sat again, this time leaning back slightly, legs crossed with confidence, hands resting gently, nails catching the light as I moved them. I felt composed. Elegant. Like I could stay like this forever and never get bored of my own presence. And dolls, that's when you know something inside you has shifted permanently. When being alone with yourself feels delicious instead of restless. My thoughts drifted to the word broken. I used to think being broken meant damaged, ruined, something that needed fixing. But standing there, living inside this softness, I realized broken can also mean opened. Released. Freed from a mold that never fit. Alpha wasn't destroyed. He was shed. Like skin that had done its job and was no longer needed. I laughed softly again, this warm, satisfied sound, and shook my head. You really tried to hold this back, I said to myself, amused. Years of rules, expectations, pretending not to notice what made my heart flutter. And yet, 10 minutes was all it took for everything to come pouring out. That's how ready I was. That's how real this is. I stood up with confidence now. No hesitation at all. My balance was perfect. My posture was graceful. My presence filled the room without force. I didn't feel like I was acting feminine. I felt feminine. And that difference, dolls, is everything. I walked toward the mirror one last time in this moment, stopped just short, and gave myself a slow, deliberate look. Chin tilted, eyes half-lidded, lips curved in a knowing smile. The kind of smile that says, I know exactly who I am now. And I believed it. Completely. There was no guilt. No shame. No urge to undo it. Only pride and a deep, calming certainty. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't curiosity. This was recognition. And recognition is powerful. I whispered it again, just to feel it settle deeper. Goodbye, Alpha. Hello, Sissy. And this time, it wasn't dramatic. It was peaceful. Like closing one chapter and opening another without regret. Something else shifted after that whisper. Something quieter but deeper. It wasn't excitement anymore. It was calm certainty. The kind that settles into your bones and tells you this isn't temporary. This is home. I felt grounded in my femininity, not floating, not dizzy, just steady. Like I'd finally stopped fighting the current and let myself be carried. I moved around the room casually now, not posing, not checking myself every second. I didn't need reassurance anymore. I already knew. My hands rested where they felt comfortable. My steps were effortless. My body held itself with a softness that didn't ask permission. And dolls, that confidence. It's addictive. I noticed how my thoughts had softened too. There was no harsh inner voice barking orders. No checklist of expectations. Just a gentle awareness of how I felt in my body. Warm. Relaxed. Content. I realized I wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. Not even myself. I was simply existing as her. I caught my reflection again unexpectedly and smiled, not because I was checking, but because it made me happy. Like seeing someone you love across a room. That's when it hit me how different this was from before. Alpha confidence was loud and exhausting. This confidence was quiet and nourishing. It didn't drain me. It fed me. I leaned against the counter, rested my weight on one hip, and sighed softly. A satisfied sigh. The kind that slips out when you stop pretending. My shoulders were loose. My jaw unclenched. My entire body felt like it had permission to rest. And I thought about how many of us crave that without realizing it. Not just femininity, but relief. Relief from performing, from proving, from pretending to be unbreakable. Sissy energy doesn't demand perfection. She celebrates honesty. She thrives in vulnerability. And that realization wrapped around me like the softest embrace. I brushed my fingers lightly along my arm, feeling texture, temperature, sensation. I was present in my body in a way I never had been before. Alpha me lived in his head. Sissy me lives in her senses. And dolls, life feels so much richer down here. I straightened up, rolled my shoulders gently, and walked with intention again. Not for practice. Not for validation. Just because it felt good. Because movement itself was a pleasure now. Because my body wasn't something to control anymore. It was something to enjoy. And that's when I understood something important. This wasn't about becoming someone else. This was about allowing myself to be fully seen by myself. No filters. No armor. Just truth wrapped in silk and confidence. I smiled, slow and knowing, and thought, this is who I've been waiting to become. I felt playful again, not the nervous kind, but the delicious, confident kind. The kind that makes you want to move just a little slower, smile just a little longer, tease the moment instead of rushing through it. I caught myself doing a tiny spin, skirt following, fabric whispering against my legs, and I laughed, a bright, carefree sound. That laugh felt earned that I walked toward the mirror and practiced expressions, not because I needed to, but because it was fun. A soft pout. A knowing smirk. A sweet, innocent look that hid just enough mischief to be dangerous. And dolls, every expression felt natural. Like I wasn't learning them, I was remembering them. There's something powerful about realizing you don't need permission to enjoy yourself. Alpha me always waited for approval, even when pretending not to. Sissy me. She decides. She indulges. She gives herself exactly what she wants and looks cute doing it. I rested one hand on my hip, tilted my head, and admired the confidence radiating back at me. Not arrogance. Assurance. The kind that says, I'm comfortable in my skin, and I know it shows. That comfort was intoxicating. I could feel it in my posture, my breath, my presence. I thought about how many times I'd denied myself small joys. Pretty things. Gentle moments. Playfulness. All because they didn't fit the role I thought I had to play. Standing there now, fully surrendered, I felt a twinge of sadness for that past version of me. And then compassion. She did her best. She just didn't know this was possible yet. I moved again, slow and fluid, letting my hips guide me without thought. Each step felt like a celebration, not a test. My body wasn't something to manage anymore. It was something to enjoy. And that enjoyment radiated outward, even in an empty room. I paused, looked myself in the eyes through the mirror, and smiled softly. You look happy, I said, quietly. And it was true. Not excited. Not overwhelmed. Happy. Content in a way that settled deep and stayed. That's when I realized this wasn't about breaking rules. It was about rewriting them. Writing new ones that centered pleasure, authenticity, and self-love. Rules that said softness is strength, beauty is power, and femininity is something to be claimed, not earned. I took a slow breath, savoring the moment, knowing it would stay with me long after I stepped away from the mirror. Some changes are permanent. Dolls. Not because they're dramatic, but because they're true. I started to imagine my life stretching forward from this moment, and for the first time, the future didn't feel heavy. It felt exciting. Soft. Colorful. I pictured waking up and choosing how I wanted to feel instead of how I was expected to act. Choosing silk over stiffness. Grace over force. Joy over obligation. And dolls, that vision made my heart flutter. I moved closer to the mirror again, not searching this time, just connecting. I lifted my chin slightly, met my own gaze, and held it. There was no doubt there anymore. No question marks. Just recognition. Like meeting someone you already know intimately. Someone who's been waiting patiently for you to stop running. I realized something important in that stillness. Alpha me was always chasing something. Respect. Status. Approval. Sissy me. She attracts without chasing. She exists, and that's enough. That shift alone felt like freedom. Real freedom. I adjusted my posture one more time, shoulders relaxed, chest open, stance balanced. I didn't need to exaggerate anything. I didn't need to perform femininity. It flowed naturally when I stopped trying to control it. And that's the secret. Dolls. Femininity blooms when you let go, not when you force it. I thought about the word hello. Saying hello isn't loud. It's an invitation. And that's exactly what this felt like. Saying hello to a part of myself I'd ignored for too long. Welcoming her in without conditions. Without timelines. Without shame. I took a few steps, slow and confident, and felt that quiet power humming again. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that holds it effortlessly. I smiled to myself, knowing this energy would follow me long after the heels came off, long after the mirror was left behind. Because this wasn't about clothes. It never was. It was about permission. Permission to feel pretty. Permission to feel soft. Permission to feel powerful in a way that actually felt good. I placed a hand over my heart again, feeling that steady rhythm, and whispered, "This is real." And it was. Completely, undeniably real. I stepped away from the mirror then, not because I needed distance, but because I trusted myself now. I didn't need constant confirmation. I carried her with me. Every step, every breath, every tiny gesture reminded me she was real and she wasn't going anywhere. That trust felt new. Powerful. I walked around the room like it was mine in a different way now. Not owned. Claimed. Claimed with softness, with confidence, with that subtle sissy energy that fills space without trying. My movements were unhurried. I wasn't rushing toward anything anymore. I was exactly where I needed to be. I thought about how alpha life always felt like a competition I never signed up for. Always measuring, comparing, pushing. This felt like alignment. Like everything finally made sense. I didn't feel smaller stepping into femininity. I felt expanded. More expressive. More complete. I paused, rested my hand on a chair, and smiled to myself. There was a glow inside me that had nothing to do with lights or makeup. It was self-acceptance. And dolls, that glow. It's irresistible. People feel it before they even understand it. I imagine speaking to you directly, sissy to sissy, heart to heart. Telling you that if you're feeling that pull, that curiosity, that softness trying to break through, it's not an accident. It's not weakness. It's your truth tapping gently, waiting for you to open the door. I straightened up again, rolled my shoulders back gently, and took a slow breath. I felt proud. Not loud pride. Quiet, steady pride. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that knows. And I realized something that made me smile even wider. This 10-minute moment didn't end when the timer ran out. It became a reference point. A reminder. A line in the sand between who I was pretending to be and who I actually am. I whispered it one more time, not as a declaration, but as a promise. Goodbye, Alpha. Hello, Sissy. After that promise, everything felt intentional. Not dramatic, not rushed, just clear. I noticed how my thoughts had stopped arguing with each other. There was no inner debate anymore, no tug-of-war between who I was and who I wanted to be. They had merged. Softly. Seamlessly. I moved again, not because I needed to, but because my body wanted to express itself. A gentle sway. A slow turn. The kind of movement that comes from comfort, not performance. I smiled without thinking, feeling that warmth spread through my chest again. That quiet joy that doesn't shout but lingers. I thought about how alpha energy taught me to hide softness like it was a flaw. To bury tenderness, playfulness, vulnerability. And here I was, wrapped in all of it, feeling stronger than I ever did pretending to be unbreakable. That realization was grounding. I sat down and crossed my legs slowly, naturally, hands resting lightly. I didn't fidget. I didn't second guess. I was fully present in my body. And dolls, when you reach that place, you stop asking if you're allowed to be this way. You just are. I imagined all the versions of me that came before this moment. The confused one. The curious one. The scared one. The one who almost let herself feel this but pulled back at the last second. I held them all with compassion. They led me here. I leaned back slightly and took a deep breath, feeling calm settle in like it belonged. This wasn't a high that would fade. This was clarity. The kind that stays with you long after the moment passes. I whispered softly, almost tenderly, "You don't have to fight anymore." And hearing that made my eyes sting just a little. Relief does that. It sneaks up on you when you finally stop resisting. I stood again, balanced and confident, and felt that same certainty return. This wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about allowing myself to be whole. Softness and strength, confidence and vulnerability, all in one beautiful, feminine presence. And dolls, once you taste that wholeness, you don't forget it. It becomes part of you. The quiet after that felt sacred. Not empty. Full. Like the kind of silence that wraps around you and says, stay. I let myself stay in it. I didn't reach for distractions. I didn't rush to the next thought. I just existed, breathing softly, feeling grounded in my femininity like it had always been there waiting for me to notice. I caught my reflection one more time, almost accidentally, and smiled with familiarity. Not excitement, not surprise. Familiarity. That's when I knew this wasn't a fantasy moment. It was integration. She wasn't visiting anymore. She had moved in. I played with my fingers gently, nails tapping lightly together, enjoying the delicate sounds they made. Even small sensations felt amplified now. My awareness lived in my body instead of racing ahead. And dolls, that's a kind of presence alpha life never gave me. I thought about confidence again. How misunderstood it is. It's not loudness. It's not control. It's comfort. And I had never felt more comfortable in my skin than I did right then. Not because everything was perfect, but because I wasn't resisting myself anymore. I stood tall, relaxed, and let my shoulders fall naturally. My stance wasn't defensive. It was open. Inviting. I felt approachable, warm, magnetic. The kind of energy that doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. I imagined carrying this energy with me everywhere. In my walk. In my voice. In the way I look at the world. Not hiding it, not exaggerating it, just letting it be part of me. That thought didn't scare me. It excited me. I smiled again, slow and confident, and whispered, "This is my power." And it felt true. Not borrowed. Not learned. Mine. I felt ready then, not for an ending, but for ownership. Ownership of this softness, this confidence, this glow that didn't ask for approval. I moved with intention again, each step smooth, unhurried, like I finally trusted my body to carry me exactly how I wanted to be seen. And dolls, that trust is everything. I looked around the room and realized something beautiful. Nothing else had changed. The walls were the same. The space was the same. But I was different. And that meant everything. Change didn't need drama. It needed honesty. I placed my hands on my hips, rolled my shoulders gently, and smiled with certainty. This wasn't rebellion. This was alignment. This was choosing myself without apology. And for the first time, that choice felt easy. I imagined you watching, listening, feeling that familiar flutter in your chest. That curiosity. That recognition. And I want you to know something, Sissy to Sissy. If this story stirs something in you, it's because that softness already lives inside you too. You don't need to force it. You just need to let it breathe. I leaned slightly toward the mirror, eyes soft but sure, and spoke with confidence. I'm not hiding anymore. The words felt solid, grounded, final. And instead of fear, they brought peace. I straightened, lifted my chin, and felt that quiet power settle in once more. The kind that stays. The kind that grows. The kind that turns femininity into strength and vulnerability into magnetism. This wasn't about losing alpha energy. It was about transforming it. Refining it. Letting it soften into something more sustainable, more authentic, more beautiful. I took a slow breath and smiled, knowing this chapter wasn't closing. It was opening wider. I stood there for a moment longer, letting everything settle, letting it imprint. This wasn't a performance to remember later. This was a truth I was carrying forward. I felt complete in a way I never had before, like every version of me had finally agreed to coexist. Soft. Confident. Feminine. Whole. I took one last look at myself, not searching, not